I'm Linda Peak-Schacht, the Executive Director of the Nelson and Sue Andrews Institute for Civic Leadership here at Lipscomb, a campus that has been transformed in the last 7 years by President Randy Lowry. Many of you in the room know Randy. I'm not sure how many of you know his true partner in this transformation, and that is Rhonda Lowry, his wife, the mother of his children, and also, from our standpoint, a strong and talented woman who has supported the increase of women in leadership positions at Lipscomb for the last 7 years. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Rhonda started out as a school teacher, has her MDiv from Fullerton, and now is an associate professor in our theology department here and a fellow in our Institute for Spiritual Formation. It is with great pleasure that I introduce our presidential spouse, a brilliant and passionate believer in the power of women, and my friend, Rhonda Lowry.
Welcome to Lipscomb University. We are honored and delighted to have all of you here. The story is told about a woman who prepared herself to teach school, and she went and she needed to renew a credential, so she left on Saturday morning, went to a Red Cross course to update her credential. And that night she was sitting with her husband, and she was recounting her day to her husband. And she said, "Oh, honey," she said, "I am so glad that I got that training in Red Cross," because she said, "Tonight as I was walking home, I was standing at the corner of 10th and Main," and she said, "I heard her coming. And sure enough, this 10-year-old girl was coming on a skateboard, and I looked around to see who she might be in danger of hitting as she came down the hill. And sure enough, I looked up, and there was a 12-year-old boy coming." She said, and as I expected, she says, "You know, they collided, and had I not taken that Red Cross course, I would not have known to put my head down between my legs so I wouldn't faint when I saw the blood." Friends, thank you for being people that have not only trained yourselves to make a difference in the world, but that have picked their head up out of their knees and done something significant in service to the world. You are here because you are making a difference. And at Lipscomb University, we are honored and we are delighted to have you. We are especially honored to have you, Ms. Davis, to be with us today, and the difference that you're making, truly in a league of your own, if you will. But Lipscomb University, we like to think, is in a league of her own. If my husband was here, you would hear 30 minutes of all that's happened in the last 7 years. I'm not going to do that to you today. I will simply tell you that he is getting a lot of credit for things that are going on here that are really about the people with whom he gets to work every day. They get to help him spend $1 million a month over the last 7 years to put Lipscomb on the map, doing what we believe God has created us to do here at Lipscomb University. You are people that believe that there is a story to tell. And we at Lipscomb also believe there is a story to tell. We also believe that there is a meta-narrative under which we live, that God is at work in us, God is at work among us, and God is at work through us. Thank you for being people that join us on that journey to tell that story over and over again. We have gathered for lunch, and we are grateful that God is at work in us. And he strengthens us by the food that we are about to eat, and we are grateful for it. Join us for lunch and be grateful. We are truly grateful you're here. Thank you.
And now we're going to give you about 10 minutes to eat, and I'll be back. I'll be back to start our fabulous program. For those of you who came in late, I'm Linda Peak-Schacht, the Executive Director of the Nelson and Sue Andrews Institute for Civic Leadership here at Lipscomb. When President Lowry lured me out of retirement almost 4 years ago, I had only just begun, having moved back to Nashville after 40 years, to understand both the power of women and the powerful women that make things happen in Nashville today. That power is represented in this room today, and we're so thrilled to have you with us. It's represented on the panel today, and leave it to Debbie Tate to figure out what many of us didn't know, that we have the highest concentration of women leaders in media in the country here in Nashville today. For Geena's sake, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the women who are in the room. First, our institute's namesake and founder believed in women. Many of you were put in positions of power in this city because of him. And I'd like to acknowledge today the powerful woman in his life, Sue Andrews, and her son Carter, who's here representing the board today. Who else is there? I'm getting points. And Judy, and his daughter Judy is here today too. Thank you. I didn't see you, Judy. Let me talk a little bit about the 4 women who are here today from the Leadership Council of the Andrews Institute, because they represent people who Nelson influenced and who are influencing the lives of women here in Nashville. Erwin Fisher is representing the Women's Fund, and many of you know her from the hard work she's done for that fund over the last several years, a member of our Leadership Council. Jerry Williams, who was tapped by Nelson to run Leadership Nashville over 2 decades ago. Where are you, Jerry? Jerry's in the back. Thank you so much for your work. Geena Clark, also on our Leadership Council, who runs the Girl Scouts here and is doing so much for the leadership development of women. Where are you, Geena? There you are, right there. And of course, Debbie Turner of Channel 5, who will be on our panel later today. There are others in the room. There are probably more cable presidents and ex-presidents than I could name. Cable, Geena, is the 30-year-old networking organization for women here in Nashville. And we're very happy at the Institute to have just launched with Cable, the Cable Leadership Academy. Last Saturday, 15 women from businesses and organizations across the city began a leadership certificate program. The first cohort, will start another one in the fall, and we thank Cable for that support, and we welcome that partnership. That partnership is also evident in our College of Business table today. The College of Business at Lipscomb has partnered with Cable on their Women on Corporate Board initiatives for years. And we have with us today Linda Rebrovic. Is Linda back there? Do I see her? Okay. Well, as many of you know, Linda's hobbling around from a skiing accident, so if she needed to keep her foot up today, that's all right. The work she does, and Jan Babiak and Margaret Beam, all members of the Tennessee Women's Forum, and also working on the Women on Corporate Boards initiative for Cable, we thank you for the work you're doing in moving people up into the boardroom. We have a member of our board here today, Robbie Davis, and Robbie, I had hoped, would be able to bring with her a wonderful addition to her own leadership. Her daughter-in-law, Jennifer Farr Davis, who broke the men's record for hiking the Appalachian Trail this past year, and was named the Adventurer of the Year by National Geographic. So we're happy to have you here, Robbie. Yvonne Wood is here from the Tennessee Women's Economic Commission. We knew Yvonne would be here, and they have a table with people from across the state. Thank you for being here with us, Yvonne, and for 20 years ago recognizing the economic importance of women in Tennessee. You know, Nelson believed that business, government, and nonprofit leaders working together could solve in a creative way the issues facing our community. And so we're really happy that this group represents that. And we have government representatives here today, Mayor Gray Thornburg from Belle Meade, State Senator Thelma Harper, as well as State Representative Brenda Gilmore, and Congressman Blackmer was here earlier with us today. We thank you for the work that you are doing for women in government today. And I am sure that there are people I have missed. In fact, I just saw one, remembered one, and that is we have Jillian Waters, the incoming president of the Junior League here today, representatives of the Women's Breakfast Club, some of you do that every Wednesday, and also of the All About Women group. So as you can see, we have lots of different women's groups here in Nashville making things happen. 5 of the students in our Masters in Civic Leadership are undertaking projects about the issues of women. They're here today, and I hope you get a chance to meet them. And one of the biggest changes in Lipscomb in the last 7 years has been the choice of women to lead in leadership roles, and I will just acknowledge a few of them. Nancy Magnuson, who's our Senior Vice President for Strategic Initiatives, Dr. Candace McQueen, who is the Dean of our College of Education and an active partner with the city in improving our city schools, Debbie Samuels, our Vice President for Marketing and Communications, and Dr. Norma Burgess, who is seated up here with the communication and journalism students and their advisor, Jimmy McCullum, and you'll be hearing from them later in the program. Debbie is going to talk more about our partners, but I would like you to at least look in the program and see the wonderful organizations that came in at both as our presenting sponsors, as home run sponsors, and as partners. Margaret Dolan, who is on our Leadership Council, couldn't be here today, but she and Ingram Industries have supported us in our efforts to advance the cause of women. We believe, as I said earlier, that great communities are intentional and not accidental. And this day would not have happened if 3 women had not conspired, or maybe I should say collaborated, maybe a little bit of both, to make it happen. We're honored to have Debbie Tate, former FCC commissioner, as our executive in residence, and Beth Curley, who runs one of the most successful public television stations in the country. And we are so happy to have gotten to know our new friend, Madeline Donono, the president of Geena's Institute. Together, they worked to get Geena here to celebrate MPT's 50th anniversary and as the spokesperson for Women and Girls Lead, the PBS multi-year programming initiative focusing on the issues of women and girls. The Andrews Institute is pleased to partner with MPT and other organizations in town to leverage this terrific programming initiative in 2 ways, beginning in the fall. Targeted leadership development for women and girls, and a Citizen Leadership Academy on the issues of women and girls, including community-wide conversations about the issues raised in the MPT programs. You'll be hearing more about that from Debbie and from Beth and me, but I wanted you to know that the initiative that you help support today will be affecting the lives of women in Nashville beginning in October. Those programs will be implemented by the 3 women who actually run the Andrews Institute. Our executive in residence, Lydia Linker, our program coordinator, Leah Davis, and our director of leadership programs, Kathy Kate. They also are the ones who literally made today happen. Thank you so much. And now, in the interest of time, I'm going to tell you that we're going to ask you to read the bios, but we're not going to give long bios of each other today. I just want to introduce to you my partner and friend, Beth Curley, the president of NPT here, who will give you more information on the fantastic opportunity we have with the programming Women and Girls Lead.
Thanks so much, Linda, and thanks to all of you for being here. We are just so thrilled with this effort. It's really very dear to my heart. And as Linda mentioned, it's NPT's 50th anniversary of Television Worth Watching, and we are so pleased to be able to partner with Lipscomb in this very special year for us to advance the cause of women and girls globally. So I would like to just talk to you a little bit about this effort. It is called Women and Girls Lead, and it's part video programs, part documentaries, part community engagement, but mostly it's a way that we can work together to advance the cause of women and girls in Nashville specifically, but the entire initiative is global. It's a multi-year media initiative. We'll leverage independent documentary film and public service engagement to amplify the voices of women and girl leaders. Very important to amplify the voices. To expand understanding of gender equity and engage a network of citizens and organizations to tune in and get involved. And I think we've already started that with the events today. Over the next 3 years, we don't do things just once at a time. We actually dig into efforts for 3 and 4 years. So at least for the next 3 years, NPT and PBS stations nationwide will be broadcasting 50 documentary films focusing on women and girls issues. That's a tremendous amount of programming that will be available. A few stations, like NPT, will take it a step further, hosting screenings and community discussions that really take these issues and connect them on a local level. And I am a big proponent of using media to educate and engage. We do a lot of that at NPT, and we want to do more. And this project is absolutely perfect for that, and I hope that I get to personally meet each one of you at various events. For me personally, being a part of Women and Girls Lead is kind of a culmination of many years, perhaps my entire life, of thinking about and working to bring attention to women's issues and to empower young girls in a way that women of my generation were not empowered. I think more concretely, it started a few years ago when I read Half the Sky, which I'm sure many of you in this room have read, by Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wu Dunn. I read this with my Gentle Readers book club, best book club in town. The book inspired the PBS series Women in War and Peace, and a new documentary based on the book will air this fall. I saw a preview of this documentary at the PBS annual meeting just last week, and I can tell you it's riveting. It was the talk of the conference, and there were grown men and women crying watching this documentary. You do not want to miss this. The book and the documentary detail the challenges and indignities that so many women and girls face around the world. Among them, rape as a weapon of war, sex slavery, underage forced marriage, political repression, and the denial of voting rights, and much more. I will be honest, it's very, very heavy stuff. But the saving grace of both the book and the documentary is that the authors and the directors offer concrete ways to help in a variety of different ways. And that's what it takes. It takes it from heavy to hopeful. And I'm hopeful that you will not be swayed by the heaviness that is Half the Sky, but you'll be moved by its hopefulness, and you will tune in, watch it in October, and then take action. Now, I always say, as the president of NPT, you really don't want to hear me talk anymore. You want to see what I'm talking about. So right now, I think I would like to show you, I think it's about a 4-minute preview of the Women and Girls Lead project.
Every era has a moment when the scales begin to tip, from a voice to a choir to a movement.
That is a step in the right direction.
For the world's women and girls, that moment is now. This is a call to action, to save lives, and to help women and girls everywhere realize their potential. Yet for women and girls to rise, their voices must be heard.
Everything you need.
Women and Girls Lead, a multi-year global campaign to put the full power of 21st century public media to work for women and girls in the U.S. and around the world. Led by Public Television, the independent television service, and its Global Perspectives Project. Powerful, compelling, authentic documentaries from the world's best independent filmmakers, featuring special presentations like Half the Sky, an online multimedia experience, and 4-hour PBS special created by Show of Force, based on the best-selling book by Pulitzer Prize winners Nicholas Kristof and Cheryl Wu Dunn.
I need to mirror. Marsani, he Lenko.
Kind-Hearted Woman, a frontline special on domestic violence in an unseen America by acclaimed filmmaker David Sutherland.
I grew up and I waited for that one day to come where I would remind them of what they had done.
And Women, War, and Peace, executive produced by Abigail Disney, Pamela Hogan, and Jeannie Rediker. A 5-part journey from Colombia to Afghanistan and war-torn communities in between. Beginning with the PBS premiere of Pray the Devil Back to Hell.
If I should get killed, just remember me that I was fighting for peace.
Women and Girls Lead starts with 50 documentaries and adds media from across the spectrum on key issues facing women and girls at home and abroad. Films about leadership and identity.
For dictators across the world, democracy is the greatest revenge.
Health and education.
Are you willing to do whatever it takes to make it happen?
Yes.
Human rights. Economic development and opportunity.
I was going to get a better education. So this was a dream. And I was not about to have that dream destroyed.
A growing wave of stories of breathtaking courage transmitted simultaneously through every possible medium. Primetime television series like Independent Lens and other outlets. National and international engagement. Cutting-edge interactive media through online games and mobile phones. And coordinated outreach with organizations hard at work in communities, including CARE and the Girl Scouts.
We can walk with pride and dignity.
Women and Girls Lead connects the dots. Between women in Los Angeles and in Lahore. Between statistics and one girl. Between a sea change and individuals ready to act. Between storytelling and technology. Between teachers and tools that bring issues to life. Between a woman, a girl, mothers, leaders, and the tipping point.
The little grassroots people, they can change this world.
A public media initiative to focus, educate, and connect audiences worldwide. From ITVS.
You can certainly follow our efforts on Women and Girls Lead on air and online, WNPT.org. And we're doing our best, funding permitted, to localize a lot of the issues that Women and Girls Lead is talking about. Specifically, you saw a little clip of Kind-Hearted Woman. We are in the fundraising stage right now to do a documentary about domestic violence in Tennessee. You know the statistics are not good in this state. And we would like to air that as a companion piece to the national effort on domestic violence to really shine a light on that issue. So I'm hoping that you'll see that on our air next winter. Now, you don't want me to go on and on. There are other people in this room here who will continue to talk about Women and Girls Lead and women's issues. And right now, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend, Debbie Taylor-Tate. Debbie, I was going to say a few things about you. I'm going to say that Debbie is invincible and unstoppable, and you are fantastic. Thanks so much for everything.
Thank you. And happy birthday to NPT. Oh my gosh, what a legacy. So my job right now is to introduce my new BFF. I still get excited when I get a text from her at night. It's really cool. And last July, I had the opportunity to meet the first female president of the United States. Well, and at least the first one on television, right? the former Commander-in-Chief and Academy Award-winning actor Geena Davis. And I cannot tell you how thrilled I am that this day came together, that you all are all here because you're part of a dream. My husband isn't here, but he would tell you he's so tired of me waking up in the middle of the night and going, Bill, I've got the greatest idea. So you all are part of one of those coming true, and thank you so much. Like many of you all, it has been a thrill to get to know Geena. Who could forget Thelma and Louise? When Senator Smith said, "Are you all the new Thelma and Louise?" I said, "Senator, did you actually see the end of that movie?" And A League of Their Own, of course, and that's why today we are celebrating our own League of Their Own with our panel. But Geena's smile, her personality, her acting ability, but I've had the real true pleasure of seeing a different side than is on screen, and one that I really have loved, and that is the compassionate, ardent advocate that she is for everyone in this room and for girls of the future in our country and around the world. And I'm appreciative of the fact that she has actually used her celebrity for making a difference. So important. She's been a positive difference for girls here, obviously, and all around the world. And was it just last week that we were in Geneva? Oh my gosh. Anyway, just last week, she was designated as the newest special envoy for the ITU and also their laureate for 2012, along with some pretty heady company, the president of Argentina and the CEO of the world's largest cell company, Huawei, in China. So congratulations, Geena. And I won't steal her statistics, but you all are going to hear more of her watching television with her young daughter and noticing the lack of female roles, and especially in careers that, and in leading kind of roles and professional careers. But like any good commander-in-chief, Geena decided to actually do something about it. So she founded the Geena Davis Institute on Gender in Media that you all will hear about, and has spearheaded some of the largest body of research ever done. I will just share one statistic, and that is that if we do nothing, it will take us 500 years to get parity with males, and I am not ready to wait 500 years. So I also want to make sure that you all have met Madeline DeNono, who actually runs the Institute along with Geena. We're so glad that you're here in Nashville as well. She has taken this message, and an ardent, strong message, I might add, from Hollywood to the halls of Congress, and again was just awarded these incredible awards in Geneva last week. So I am so proud to serve as co-chair with Geena of the Healthy Media Commission, and especially to welcome you to Nashville. Thank you.
The stage helped us not be a sight gag, so that I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for bringing me to Nashville, Debbie. I appreciate it. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you this afternoon, and I want to thank everyone at Lipscomb, especially Dr. Norma Burgess, and of course also the Andrews Institute for Civic Leadership, and Linda Peak-Schott, who I met earlier today, and who's a wonderful inspiration. So before we start, I mean, you may have some idea of what I might be like from having seen a movie I'm in or something like that. And I just wanted to let you know that this is always a little weird for me to be, I'm standing here giving a speech, because to me, I'm just still the same dorky kid that I was growing up in a small town in Massachusetts. Actually, it's funny, because I was just talking about this with the driver in the motorcade on the way over, how I'm still the same as I was. Okay, well, we'll put away a few of these pages. So evidently, I announced to my parents when I was 3 that I intended to be an actor. I don't remember this, but that's what they say. I'll digress for just one second. to explain why I call myself an actor instead of an actress. If you look up the word actor in the dictionary, it says a person who acts. It doesn't say a male person. So I feel like we don't really need the little "re" on the end to denote femaleness. And in fact, I think actress soon will seem as quaint as doctoress, or poetess, remember authoress and all those. So I consider myself an actor who used to be a waiter. Yes. So back to age 3, I can't imagine what it was that decided me on this course, but my goal never wavered, and when it came time for college, I decided that I was going to major in acting at Boston University, which is a great idea, major in acting, because it always works out. My whole family, all of us were so removed from show business that when I told my parents, I planned to major in acting, they were like, oh, fine, great, whatever. As if I'd said, I'm going to major in engineering or dentistry or something where you actually get a job after going to college. My very first role, I was really fortunate, was in Tootsie. I mean, it's like unbelievable. How do you get to be, your first job is in a movie with Dustin Hoffman? So I remember overhearing a friend of my mom's talking to her about it. Oh my God, we can't believe it. It's so incredible. It's amazing. My mom says, well, she studied acting. It always works out. But whatever the odds, I had this sort of just idiotic, unshakable faith that I was going to be an actor. So I thought I would share with you today a few stories about roles that I've played that have really changed my life and taking me down paths that were never part of my master plan. When I got cast in A League of Their Own, I was supposed to play the best baseball player anyone had ever seen. And the problem was that I didn't know how to play baseball or any other sport. I was, my torture in high school was being the tallest kid in class. Everybody has something. And so I was very, gangly, and I just didn't perceive myself as being very athletic. But I, took the role serious. I trained hard, and soon the coaches started saying, you have some untapped athletic ability, which was a great compliment. But what I found was that learning how to play a sport really affected how I saw myself and my body. For the first time in my life, I felt like it's okay to be tall. It's okay to take up space. It's okay to use your body because it can actually do things. For most of my life, I had not felt truly comfortable with myself, and that I wasn't somehow faking it, or I never believed that I truly deserved to be successful until sports dramatically improved my self-image. It turned out that I was coordinated. It just took until I was 36 to find that out. So what I learned from playing sports encouraged me to get in touch with the Women's Sports Foundation, which encourages girls' participation in sports, because I wanted to help young girls discover what I had learned about body image, but decades before I had. So I ended up serving for 10 years as a trustee of the Women's Sports Foundation, which had a big impact on my life. The film that had the most impact on my life was Thelma and Louise, which essentially changed the course of my life. None of us realized before the movie came out that we were making anything that was in any way exceptional. We knew it was a very good script. It was unusual because it had two very well-written female characters in the lead, but we didn't know that it was going to turn out to be significant. Nothing stood out to us except, maybe we drive off the cliff at the end. Well, now I gave the ending away. Sorry about that. Before the movie came out, people recognized me here and there, at the supermarket or whatever, and say something like, I actually liked Earth Girls Are Easy. Thank you very much. But as soon as the movie came out, it was extraordinary. I had people just grab me by the lapels so I would stay while they told me about what the movie meant to them, and oh my God, it was so incredible. And my friend and I acted out your trip. Or, cars full of women would honk at me at red lights, and oh my God, and there was all the, I don't know if you remember, there were all these passionate editorials at the time about, oh my God, now the women have guns, everything's ruined. So if I had ever needed a lesson in the power of media images, I certainly had one now, because it brought home to me in a very stark way how few opportunities we give women to feel like this about the female characters in a movie, to come out of a movie feeling excited and exhilarated and inspired. So ever since that movie, I've made my acting choices with the women in the audience in mind. How will the women watching feel about my character? And can my character be in charge of her own fate? And I don't look for role model parts, mind you. I mean, if you think about Thelma and Louise, we kill a guy, evade the law, drive drunk, have sex with a stranger, and kill ourselves. So as far as that whole we reenacted your trip goes, I'm just still stuck on that. My next big lesson in life came from being cast as the first woman president on television. And when they offered me this part, I was like, how did they know? It was so perfect to me. It just, with my empowerment proclivities for women, I mean, what could be more iconic than getting to play the president? But this also led me into a whole new realm for me of women's advancement. Because through the film, I got to know Marie Wilson, who was the founder of the White House Project. I don't know if you ever heard of that. It's a nonprofit that advocates for more women to hold leadership positions, both in politics and in business. And I had been aware, as everybody is, of how there were fewer women holding public office than men. But I had no idea of the extent of the problem. Did you know that the United States ranks 90th in the world as far as female representation in government? 90th. I mean, quick, name 89 countries. It's really astounding because, Americans, we tend to think of ourselves as, leader. We're leading the way. We're showing how it's done, and just profoundly not in this case. And Debbie was talking about, there was a study done by the New York Times Magazine, which showed that if we add women to Congress at the rate that we have been, we will achieve parity in 500 years. But I say, boldly, that we dedicate ourselves today to cutting that in half. So the fact is that women are seriously underrepresented across every sector of society, but for the most part, we're not really aware of the true extent of this. The White House Project did a report a couple of years ago where they looked at 10 sectors of society to figure out what is the percentage of women in positions of authority and leadership. And it was, business, law, politics, media, academia, et cetera. And they found that across the board, across all these 10 most important sectors of society, the average percentage was about 17%. Across all these sectors of society, everything had stalled out at about 17%. And it makes you wonder, how can that be? How could it be that across the board this happens? But once you start, maybe you'll start noticing now, 17% turns out to be sort of everywhere. The percentage of women in Congress is actually 16%. It went down from 17. 17% of movie narrators are women. It's also the percentage of women in the Animators Guild. My body fat is 17%. It's weird how it's kind of everywhere, right? So this is why I think that research is so important, because the facts dispel the myths and misconceptions. I really believe that facts are the most important tool to change minds. And sponsoring research has become very significant in my life. In at least the past 6 years, I founded my research institute called the Geena Davis Institute on Gender and Media, because I wanted the data on one very specific thing, which was how many female characters were there in entertainment media made for kids, for little kids. Because when my daughter was about 2 years old, she's 10 now, Alize, we started watching, things with her, little G-rated videos and things. And with this sort of spidey sense that I had about women's roles in media, I was stunned to see that there seemed to be far fewer female characters than male characters in what little kids were being shown. There's obviously notable exceptions like Dora the Explorer and preschool shows, especially on PBS, tend to be quite balanced. So we're doing great in that area. But I started checking around. I asked my friends, had they noticed, that this was going on? No. And then I started asking around in the industry, because I hadn't at this time decided that I was going to, launch a whole new phase of my life over this. But when I asked people in the industry, producers or studio execs, whatever, have you noticed how few female characters there are in G-rated movies? They would, to a person, say, oh, no, that's been fixed. And then they would name a movie with one female character in it as proof that the problem of not enough female characters has been fixed. So that made me realize nobody's picking up on this. And if I want to really try to have an impact, I need the data, because obviously my impression is not having carrying any weight. Because it occurred to me as a mother that our kids in the 21st century should be seeing boys and girls sharing the sandbox equally, for heaven's sake. So my friends and I raised some money, and we sponsored the largest research study that ever been done on G-rated movies and children's television programs. It was conducted at USC's Annenberg School for Communication by Dr. Stacy Smith, and the report was eventually titled "Where the Girls Aren't." We have since sponsored the largest body of research ever done into gender representations in media in family film ratings, G, PG, and PG-13. And the results are frankly stunning. The worldview that our culture is reflecting to children is incredibly unbalanced. For every one female character, there are 3 male characters, unless it's a crowd scene in which only 17% of the characters are female. And significantly, over the 20-year period that we've now studied, there was no improvement at all in the numbers of female. Well, I shouldn't say no improvement. There was enough improvement that if we add characters at the rate they have been for the last 20 years, we will achieve parity in 700 years. So we also looked at the female characters, obviously, who do exist, and what are they like, and the vast majority were highly stereotyped and or hypersexualized. This is kind of shocking, that the G-rated animated characters wear the same amount of sexually revealing clothing as R-rated female characters. And in animated films, because you could draw the characters any way you want, the majority of female characters have a waist so tiny that not only could it not exist in real life, but it's questionable if you could fit a spinal column in there. One of the most common occupations for female characters in G-rated movies was royalty, which is a nice gig if you can get it. Don't get me wrong. So knowing all this, we have to ask ourselves, what message are we sending to boys and girls at an incredibly vulnerable age? We're talking about kids 11 and under. If the female characters are one-dimensional, sidelined, narrowly stereotyped, hypersexualized, or simply not there at all. We are communicating to children that women are less valuable to society than men and boys, and that women and girls don't take up half the space in the world. And the message is sinking in because the more hours of television a girl watches, the fewer options she thinks she has in life. And the more hours a boy watches, the more sexist his views become. So clearly, there is a strong negative message about women being imprinted on kids. And we're feeding them this from the very beginning. And so in effect, we are training a new generation. We're enculturating them to unconsciously take in that women are less important than men, both genders. So what can we do? Well, in medicine, the cure often comes from the same source as the disease. And the good news is that media, being so powerful as it is, can have the same effect in a positive direction. It can powerfully influence boys and girls to see girls differently. It can create opportunities to overcome social barriers. For example, we know that if girls watch female characters in unstereotyped activities, they will be much more likely to later pursue untraditional occupations. In other words, if they see it, they can be it. Clearly, gender equality is an idea whose time has more than come. So why has progress stalled out in all sectors of society? I think one reason is that it's a very common and human trait to think that progress happens naturally. It happens on its own. Over time, things change and they change for the better. Or you think that, like the studio executives, that the change has already happened. It's very true in my industry where it's periodically announced, well, now things are better for women actors, but it has yet to prove to be the case because the ratio of male to female characters has been the same since 1946. No change. Because change doesn't happen easily. And where gender equality is concerned, as we see, sometimes it utterly stalls out. But I like to consider myself the same way Bill and Melinda Gates talk about themselves as impatient optimists. And I'm sure that all of you in the room share that idea because the time for change has more than come, as we said. And there are powerful agents of change in this room, all of us. We are all powerful agents of change. And we will embrace what Dr. Martin Luther King called the fierce urgency of now. We can't wait to see if real gender equality comes in the natural course of time because all the evidence shows us that it will not. The lives of girls are at stake. Professor Amartya Sen, a Nobel Prize winner, tells us that every year 2 million girls go missing because of inequality and neglect. Women and girls are missing not just as fictional characters on screen, but in the cold light of day. And we need, in all sectors of society, to add women. We need more women both in the media, in front of the camera and behind the camera, in the realms of business and academia and law and the military. We need more women leaders. The people reporting the news and the people making the news, we need to have more women. And to the ranks of policymakers and corporate boards and justices and presidents and prime ministers, we need to add women, include women, encourage women, vote for women, and hire women. I want the day, thank you. I want the day to come soon when I can share this story with my daughter, that once upon a time, women and girls held a lesser position in the world than men and boys. And she would turn to me and look with an incredulous expression and then say, "Mom, that's just a fairy tale." Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I want to now introduce a video that's called Guess Who? It's part of the Women and Girls Lead campaign, and it was created and produced here at Lipscomb University in partnership with my institute. Guess Who is an educational outreach program which not only teaches children about gender stereotypes, but is meant to engage and educate the next generation of content creators. And we have some wonderful content creators here in the room. I'll introduce you to the Guess Who team. There's Catherine McKinley, Michael Fox, Kristen Turner, Marley Vogel, and Bryn Watkins, who all created this piece. Can you all raise your hands so we see where you are? There you go. Thank you. Thank you. I think you'll love this. They did a fantastic job. So first we're going to show the video, and then we're going to show a great making of video to see what the creators learned about it. So let's watch the video. Thank you.
Guess who? This is the story of two travelers. They set off on adventures all around the world. One has adventures on land, and the other has adventures in the sky. Guess who? The race car driver and the pilot. What does a race car driver look like?
Let's see. He has like a helmet. They have these little like glasses thingies. A fireproof suit.
What does a pilot look like?
He wears a blue suit. They're all dressed in blue. He would wear some goggles. He has like a little wings right here. Leather boots. Really nice personality.
Most of you describe the race car driver as a man, but what if we told you that our race car driver was a woman?
Awesome. That's cool. We usually see a boy coming out of the car and holding the trophy like.
What if we told you our pilot was a woman too?
Oh my goodness. I've never seen a girl fly a plane. That's weird. Another girl?
Me, Deborah, and Afton. Deborah Renshaw Parker is a race car driver and she loves her job.
The competitiveness of it is so much fun. That is something that I live and breathe and die for, is that game of every lap being a little bit faster than the other. It takes dedication and being focused.
Afton Benassi is a pilot and she loves her job too.
Probably my favorite part is you get to travel. You get to see different places and different cultures and talk to new people and meet new people. It's the experiences that you get while you're traveling, whether it's in the country or outside the country.
You can go on your own adventures all around the world, just like Deborah and Afton. And remember,
You can be anything you want to be.
The end. Guess who?
What does Guess Who mean to me?
Guess who means to me.
What does Guess Who mean to me?
Guess Who means that anyone can do anything that they set their minds to.
I wasn't fully aware of the stereotypes that kids see.
It really opened my eyes to look at what we're watching on TV and what we're watching in movies.
Guess Who is a great educational tool through the media to basically just say gender stereotypes are wrong.
That it doesn't matter whether you're a girl, you're a boy, you can be whatever you want to be as long as you put hard work into it.
Lipscomb University has partnered with the Geena Davis Institute and PBS to create a children's spot which focuses on the gender inequalities and stereotypes in occupations.
We brainstormed different ideas of women in occupations that we could interview and ask them how gender stereotypes affected them and where they are today.
Picking which professions we wanted to pick for our spot was really interesting because it was really neat to see all the new professions that women are emerging in and that they didn't used to be as prominent in.
But we pinpointed on two. We found a race car driver and we found a pilot.
Oh my goodness. That's weird.
another girl.
It was a lot of fun working with the kids.
We brought in about 12 kids from our campus elementary school to interview for the spot. It was really cool to see the different opinions they had about the gender stereotypes of a pilot and a race car driver.
It was really, really hard to break them out of their shells, but once we broke down those walls and their nervousness was overcome, it was so much fun to work with the kids.
It was great to see their reactions when we were filming them. We got some really candid moments on camera that were really funny. Sometimes we had to stifle our laughter. It was just great.
Meet Deborah and Afton.
We went to Atlanta to interview our pilots.
And we actually had about 7 different women pilots show up to maybe be in the spot.
One of the pilots, she was a great candidate for this project because her daughter had recently been bullied at school. She'd been told that girls can't be pilots, and she said, well, my mom is a pilot. She's a captain. Girls can do whatever they want to do.
And I'm glad that we got to shed light on women in the occupation of a pilot to show kids that both women and men can do anything they set their minds to.
Interviewing Deborah Renshaw Parker, the race car driver, was a lot of fun.
Because she was confident, she loved what she was doing.
And it's really neat to be able to show her story and shine a light on her as someone who's been successful as a woman race car driver.
I want our spot to show kids that they can do anything they set their mind to. The sky is the limit. They shouldn't be held back by stereotypes.
My goal through this project is to impact people, especially children, and help them realize that they can be whatever they want to be.
That's why Guess Who is what we're doing to be able to educate these kids that women can do whatever they want.
Nothing or no one should stop them from accomplishing their dreams. As long as you work hard and have the drive, then you can do whatever you want to do.
Oh my goodness. I didn't know that there was so many. I thought there was just a few.
You guess what? Some girl too. You no reaction? You think it's cool? What?
My name's Ryder. My mom's a race car driver.
Hey. Ready? Take 2 and go.
My mom's a race car driver.
Do the stanky leg.
Oh, do the stanky leg, yeah.
Good job.
I just want to say I'm so proud of these students. It is just unbelievable. I remember being part of a conversation that somebody just said, well, do you think that there are a group of students at Lipscomb that could do this? And I went, oh my gosh, yes, because I've had them in class. So I think that is just incredible, and I'm so proud of all of you all, and thank you, because I know it took a lot of hard work and that you were probably in the midst of exams. So thank you all so much. Now, my dream team, I'm so excited. You all come on up as I call your names out, please. While I'm doing that, I wanted to also just take 1 minute and tell you that some of our sponsors flew in from all around the world almost to be here today, and so I wanted to especially thank our presenting sponsors who are here. Jane Mago, who's the General Counsel of the National Association for Broadcasters. Please stand up or wave or something. Allison Crujan is also here from NAB. They came from different parts of the country to be here. And from the National Cable and Telecommunications Association, Rob Stoddard, who's the vice president and just flew in from the cable show, which was unbelievable. Rob, thank you so much. Their associations and members, there's a whole table of broadcasters here today, are all working together to incorporate much of what Geena was talking about in her remarks and what we'll be talking about with the women here, and that is the goal of healthy, balanced, and positive images of women and girls. We just released our first set of definitions, draft definitions, which we hope you'll take a look at. They're on a table outside. And Jill Bader, where are you? The Girl Scouts are our other another national partner, and we welcome Jill because she's actually a Nashvilleian. So although she lives in D.C., we feel like she's from here. So thank you, Jill, for being here. So, with that said, we are so fortunate. And Geena, I just wanted to tell you, I know you heard about us being Tennessee is the reason that we all women have the right to vote, the 19th Amendment passing. But what I forgot to tell you that you haven't heard, and we've really been doing a great job on this, we have a majority of our Tennessee Supreme Court are women, including the Chief Justice. You met the Speaker of the House, a mayor, our vice mayor of Nashville. It is just really pretty incredible what we have been able to accomplish. And part of it is back to your point of you need the research, and then you need to go educate people. And you can't get elected if you don't run. So we need more of you young women out there to think about running. Okay, with that said, let me welcome Doreen Wade, our newest member of the media, to Nashville. I'm going to be very short because you all have their own bios, but I did want to make sure that you all meet her because she came, and Nashville is very, very lucky that she did come because she was previously president of a national media company and gave that up to come to Nashville. So we're very happy. Channel 4, WSMV. Thank you. Carol Hudler, many of you all know Carol as the publisher of the Tennessean, but that is just one of her many hats. She's also part of the larger Gannett Corporation, where she serves as Southeast Regional Director of Gannett Corporate. And for how many states?
13 sites, about 7 states.
Fantastic. So thank you, Carol. Deb McDermott, one of my dear friends. You all may know her as a cheering mom on the sidelines of two incredibly successful sons who are football players, but I know her as the president of Young Broadcasting, and actually she deserves an honorary law degree for coming through some pretty tough financial times. So again, Deb, not only here in Nashville running stations, but president of a national corporation. Debbie Turner, I cannot imagine how long we've known each other. We watched our girls play volleyball or swim or softball, I don't know what, all the sports that they were into. She is also part of NABEF, which is a lot of letters, but NAB chose her because she is one of the leaders among the national broadcasters that we hope will propel her into media ownership and continuing to make a difference. Thanks. Kate is almost a fixture here at Lipscomb because in addition to being the publisher of the Nashville Business Journal, she partners on The Breakfast. And if you all have not been to these Nashville Business Journal breakfasts, they are one of the hottest gig in town. They are fabulous. Everybody from our new Titans coach to international business leaders. And so we thank you for the impact that you've had on Nashville and Lipscomb. So Beth, we've already heard from you. Everybody knows you. Happy birthday again. And when I'm in Washington, I say all the time, you know that Nashville is the #1 PBS station in the whole country. So thank you, Beth. I'm sorry, and I think we have another person on the panel. That kind of tall person. Anyway, welcome Geena back. So, interestingly, right on cue, both Ms. Lowry and Congressman Blackburn talked about It's Your Story, Tell It. It also happens to be the Girl Scouts' newest journey that they used to just kind of be known for badges and cookies, but now they are truly providing leadership skills for girls. I love this one. It's their media leadership series, and so it is all about It's Your Story, Tell It. So I think that's kind of the first question that I just want to kick off, and maybe Beth, you can start and go down the panel. I know that Geena may have a different story that she wants to share than the ones that were in her remarks, but please go ahead.
First of all, I want to say that the spot that you saw, the Guess Who spot, will be broadcast on public television and certainly will be broadcast here on NPT. And we are hoping, we know that the Institute is working on additional spots, and we will be broadcasting all of those as well. So a great effort, and again, part of the overall Women and Girls Lead project. Okay, I'm trying to answer the question, Debbie, in a minute or less, and it's so hard. I grew up in the 50s and 60s and didn't know any professional women and didn't really aspire to any particular career. Like Geena, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 3. And I came of age in college during the late 60s and 70s when the women's movement really started to flourish. And I was a part of that wave, and I realized that, wait a second, I want to do something, but I don't know what I want to do. I didn't have any role models, and I was able to start in a public TV station that had been on the air for a year. It was really a kind of a startup operation, and I was an English major in college. Well, that's kind of next to acting in terms of what you may be able to do with it. And I was a good photographer, and I thought, well, public TV, that's something I can really believe in, and I can take pictures and I can write, so that's what television is, right? And so I got started on the ground floor. And I have to say that I sure wish that I had had some mentors early on, because boy, did I make a lot of mistakes.
Okay, that's another question.
That's it.
We're going to talk about mentors in a minute.
And I'm going to pass it right on to Kate.
Well, I have a degree in elementary education, so I went into very traditional women's educational role and substituted for a year, which changed my life, and I thought, I never want to do that full time. So I give credit to all the teachers out there. But somebody at the time had said, you know what, I think you should go into sales. You seem like you would be a really good salesperson. So I got a job at a radio station. Worked there for a year doing sales, and then actually I've been working with our company for 18 years, worked with a business journal in Milwaukee. We own 40 throughout the United States.
She started when she was 12.
Yeah, right. And what's interesting, though, is that after I gave birth to my 3rd child, I did go in and submit my resignation. I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, and my boss at the time, who was male, said, you know what, you really like your job here. We know it. We know you're good at it. Hold a second, take this back. We want to come back to you tomorrow and talk to you a little bit more about it, and we have a different idea for you. And they did. So they came back with a new plan, a raise, the whole thing, and my husband went into work the next day and actually quit and was a stay-at-home dad after that. So that was you don't plan for that, but you have those turns of, the different turn of events that happen, and that's what brings me here today.
See, I knew these stories would be great.
Well, I knew I always wanted to be in business, probably at 3, maybe 5. My friends would get so sick of me because they would come over to my house to play, and I would organize groups to go to the neighborhood, knock on doors, weed, clean houses, do whatever we could to earn money. So business was in my blood from the beginning. I went into college as an accounting major, not because I ever had any desire to be an accountant, but in the mid-'80s, I knew I could get out and get a job. And my parents were really pleased about that. And now as a parent of college-age kids, I would like that as well. So I went to work for Price Waterhouse, and my largest client was this media company called Landmark Communications. They had TV stations, they had newspapers, they even had the Weather Channel, which I thought was really cool. And so I had the opportunity to spend a couple of years auditing their books, and then had the opportunity to go work on their corporate staff. And a couple years later, I was given the opportunity to move to Nashville because they were buying a little TV station here in the top 30 market. Mm-hmm. And I came down as the number 2 person in 1992, thinking it would be a 2-year tour and then I'd go run something else that they had. And here it is 20 years later. I've had the opportunity to be GM about a dozen years. And to Doreen's point, I wouldn't move. It's a great city.
I have 4 brothers and have 10 million guy cousins. And so as I was in college, I was studying journalism and really wasn't driven and thinking that I needed to go do something big and wonderful. I get out of college, need a job. I end up at getting an offer at a TV station in Lincoln, Nebraska. I was going to be the director of promotion and public relations, and I'm thinking, how did I even get this offer? I've never been inside of a TV station before. I'd been turned down for horrible jobs. I wanted to be Woodward and Bernstein, and I couldn't even get a job writing for a AAA's newsletter. So I get this job, and I'm the department head, and I'm sitting there going, what is this? How did I get this? And there had been a woman there, and the FCC at that time, about 10 years before that, had said you have to have women in management. And so a lot of TV stations had your token woman, and she was the promotion and public relations director. I was 22 years old, and all the rest of the department heads were 45 or older, and all men. But I had 4 brothers. I know how to deal with this. So that was a great experience. And after 1 year of doing that job, I had somebody I worked for who helped me learn other jobs, and I really stayed there for 7 years. But 1 year into it, I said, I want to be a general manager. And I put it down on a piece of paper, and I said, I want to do it by the time I'm this age, and this is how I'm going to get there. And dreams do come true. I'm going to jump ahead here because I spent some time with 3 years of a commuting marriage, actually almost 4, to work in Kansas City, and then to move to Nashville. And I came here to be station manager for the Knight Ridder station, and they were going to promote me to general manager within a year and a half. They had a general manager that was retiring. In the midst of all this, they decide to sell. So there's my dream. Oh my goodness, I'm almost at my deadline. I need to get there. So they do sell. They do not make me general manager. They bring in another general manager who they consequently fired within about 6 months. And I was pregnant with my first child. I was counting my contractions, getting ready to head to the hospital, and I get a phone call from the corporate person going, now Deb, we know you're going to have this baby tomorrow, because they thought I was being induced tomorrow, was what I had told them. And they said, don't worry, but I need to talk to you about, we're going to make you general manager, and we're going to make a change at the station. And I'm like, okay, I hang up the phone, and I go, I hit my deadline. And my husband says, hot damn, a new job and a new baby all in the same night. So.
Great story. I think the first job I ever aspired to, I wanted to be an FBI agent. And my dad actually had gone to law school with someone who had gone on to be an FBI agent and arranged me to talk to him. I found out years later the FBI didn't take any women in the FBI force for like another 5-7 years. So I really have to thank my dad for giving me that same message that I heard on the film, which is you can do anything you want to. But I went to college. I like to write, so I went to college and fell in love with journalism. But and it was kind of the Woodward and Bernstein days as well. But I fell in love with the business side of journalism. I kind of was a little like you, Deb. And I sold ads for the college paper. Later on, I ran it. I like to start new products. When I got out of school, I stayed in the area because I was married to a law student. So I helped start a direct mail shopper. We did a lot of startups. I did a lot of startups, and I moved to California. And I was at the Orange County Register. And I had helped start up this whole chain of publications owned by the Register. And we went from a staff of 4 to a staff of 60. And we got to the certain point, we had these goals, and I had gone home to brag to my mother. I think I was 27 or something like that, and about this new promotion I was going to get when we got to this certain age, because my boss had had promised this. And I called in. I was on vacation, and I called in, and I found out they gave some guy that job. They gave him my job. And I was so upset, because I really hadn't thought about goals or career. I just kind of liked starting things. And I liked getting rewarded for it, but someone gave him my job, and I was so upset. So I went in and I calmed down a day maybe, and then I went into the vice president of advertising at the time, and I'd never met him. He didn't know who I was, and I said, I just want to know what I've done to destroy my career, and why I didn't get the job that I was supposed to have. And he's like, who are you? But what he said to me really changed my world. And he said, you know, what do you really want to do? And I said, well, I guess I want to be a publisher. And he says, if you want to be a publisher, you're working for the wrong company. I know this. He had come from Knight Ridder. He said, work for Gannett or work for Knight Ridder, because this company will not make a woman a publisher for at least another 10 years. And I thought, okay. And so I did. And it really helped me get focused and get my goals focused. And of course I ended up working for both Gannett and Knight Ridder and got to be publisher before my deadline. And I think I made it by about a week. So, you know, loved Nashville. I loved moving here. That was also a goal of mine. And I was patient enough to do that. And I'm going to turn it over to Doreen.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Well, like Geena, I was a dorky kid from a small town in Massachusetts. And like Beth, I had no role models to speak of. I think Beth and I are probably around the same age, and there were no women who had professional jobs. Most of them were stay-at-home moms or secretaries. And like Kate, I was supposed to be an elementary school teacher, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. It was what my dad wanted me to do. So that didn't quite work out. And so I bounced around for a little bit, went back and worked for a gift shop, which back then they weren't like Hallmark stores. They sold greeting cards, but they also sold fine china and crystal and furniture, and they made me the manager, and I'd worked there all through high school and college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I guess my story is that other people always saw something in me that I did not see in myself, and it kind of projected me through my career, quite frankly. So I ended up starting in radio sales for a gentleman who was the sales manager for a radio station that we were using to advertise the shop. And then 2 years later, I got recruited to bigger radio stations and a television station in Providence, Rhode Island. And that's pretty much where I got my start. I mean, you know, married late, didn't get married till I was 30, didn't have my wonderful son till I was 36. But, I mean, it took me a long time to find my footing. You know, I had some hardships in my family, so I felt like I was obligated to stay in a particular market and not move on. But, you know, I worked for a company that kept elevating me, and I remember every time I was offered another promotion, I'd go home and I'd sit on my husband's lap and I'd say, why do they want me to do this? I can't do this. And he'd say, honey, of course you can do this. You can do anything. So I enjoyed a very, very wonderful career with Freedom Broadcasting. I ran 3 of their stations. They eventually made me, pardon me, president of the company, which was pretty cool, except that it required a lot of travel, which my friend Deb over here understands. And we parted company at the end of 2010 when there was a change in ownership. And there was one individual. I know we're going to talk about this later, and I don't want to jump the gun, but when you talk about when you have that one little hiccup in your career, it was the first person in 30 years that I found I could not get along with. So fortunately, I ended up here, and this Nashville is awesome. And I'm so delighted to be with my old friend Deb Turner and my friend Deb McDermott and my new friend Carol Hudler, and you know, the girls rule.
Okay. So Geena, tell us one more story. They're all so fabulous.
Despite having this goal, I was I think if it hadn't worked out, I might have wanted to go into business because I was very entrepreneurial as a kid. I had a paper route by the time I was 8, and very organized about it. And then I started making. I was making all my own clothes, some of which were incredibly embarrassing. It turned out that the other kids let me know. But then I started making things out of leather that I would go to craft fairs and sell. It was all adults, and I was there with my little handbags and stuff. So, and I think it's because I had my dad, both my parents, but my dad especially, there was no question that I could do everything that my brother could do. You know, if Dad was shingling the roof, I would be up there with him shingling the roof. So that was totally the way I was raised, and I expected to be able to do whatever it was that I wanted to do. It was interesting when I was getting ready to go to college. I remember my mom talking to her brother, my uncle, about it, and he said, and I was there as if I wasn't even in the room. He said, "Oh, what a waste to send a girl to college." And it was the first time I'd ever heard anything like that. I absolutely.
Is he still alive?
It's okay. It's okay. He came around, but yeah, I'd never experienced sexism really in that kind of a way before. It was very stunning, but I recovered.
Somehow, Geena Davis on a roof shingling. I can't imagine. Okay, but that's awesome. Okay, Beth, you're probably the broadcaster that may have a little more flexibility with regards to content and shaping content, and everyone here probably watched this series on immigration, and it was just absolutely unbelievable. And now all the content that you'll be doing about girls and women lead. And but why don't you all talk just a little bit about how you've either influenced the company itself or influenced what kind of the programming that you do, and maybe make this pretty quick so we can spin through a couple of more questions.
My career has been on the creative side of the business. I think unlike most of my colleagues, I was not involved in the business side until I came to Nashville, I think. And I came up through as a production assistant, a producer-director, and I was the only woman for, probably 10 years at my station who was working on the creative side. There were some other women in public television, but they again were working in publicity and they were working in administration. And early on, I was brash, which is probably still true, and I sort of didn't know what I shouldn't do, and I was very aggressive about the kinds of programs that I thought the station should do. And I think I had been there probably 2 years, which would have made me like 23 years old. And I said, we need to do a program about women. And so I did a program about women for a couple of years. And I think, as Debbie said, in public television, you have a little more flexibility, and they indulged my passion, and I was able to do that. And I think it made a difference in that community at that time, and got a lot of press, and was one of the first programs that was devoted exclusively to women's issues.
Kate, I know you all have so many lists, and I especially love the one about the family-friendly working environments that you all do, and women that are running companies here in Nashville. And so, tell us a little bit about your experience with trying to shape that.
In terms of
Kate.
Brash. Yes.
And we're glad you are.
Well, we're a local business newspaper, so we really focus on the business community here in Nashville. Unfortunately, our company lets us run very autonomously, so we can put together any programs. So about 5 years ago, we developed the Women of Influence Awards program, which awards women in the business community just to shine the spotlight on them. Another example is after I heard actually Geena Davis's research about 6 months ago, we also started a women's mentoring program where you can sign up on our website and ask to either be a mentor or a mentee. And actually right now we have a waiting list of 125 mentees that we cannot pair. So it shows that there are younger professional women out there who are looking for mentors and looking for help, and they really can't find it. So I encourage you, if you haven't signed up for that program,
we could solve that problem right in this room.
Please solve that problem. So it is fun because we are able to put programs together that help the community.
Likewise, we get to run very autonomously at News Channel 5, and we focus a lot of our time and attention from the leadership perspective on diversity, and not just black, white, girl, boy. We are focused 100% of our time on inclusiveness for everybody at the station. And on News Channel 5 Plus, I would say probably about 10 years ago, we began the focus of making niche programs that really reflect the community, slices of the community, i.e. niche. So we have a Hispanic show, we have a seniors show, we have a gay rights show, we have all kinds of different slices of Nashville kind of shows. And launching some of them, I can assure you, sitting here at Lipscomb University was not easy. We had a lot of pushback on several of the shows from the community. But the result was the city really has come around to recognize the fact that we are made up of a whole bunch of different somebodies that all need to have a voice in the community.
You know, each of our stations run autonomously, and I'm very proud of the fact that they do this independently at their stations. We're a very non-corporate driven company, and so, you know, I met, like when I came here, Ann Holt's sitting back there, and Ann was, you know, the highest profile. Here's an African American woman at our television station. I'm a woman running the television station, and so over the years, you know, we've seen women come into much higher profile positions in sales, in news. I think our business is very good about that part of it. The weaknesses has been getting women to those higher level positions in the corporate, you know, leadership. It's made some major improvements. ABC is a good example of a company that has a lot of strong women. There's other companies that are primarily men in the leadership positions. So I personally, I love it when I get lots of people in our company and just young people that I know their parents or something talking to me about or asking me about what they think they ought to do with their careers. And I'm just going to give you one little piece of advice for those young women who are in here. Don't wait to try to set up a mentorship. Just think of it as go talk to everybody, because there's some type of responsibility that comes with a mentorship that maybe makes it harder for people to feel like they want to be mentors because they feel like, do I have time to do that? Well, they have time for a conversation. So just reach out to anybody and go talk to them.
That's great. Well, you know, I like Deb, we believe in diversity, and we make sure that all voices are heard. And it's really not hard to staff with really talented women, even at the top. I just hired, I don't know if Maria is in the audience or not, but, oh, there she is, Maria DeVering. She's our new executive editor, and I didn't realize it at the time, but she's the first women editor to oversee the Tennessean. But I would say probably the thing I'm most proud of in terms of making a difference in women's lives was a series that we did when I was the publisher in Fort Myers, Florida. And we found out that it was an area of booming construction and whatnot, and it had a lot of people from other countries there building homes and doing something. And what we found was that we were one of the biggest sites for human trafficking. And we were talking about human slavery. And it was just not something that town was really ready to hear, but we learned about it, we exposed it, and we put a lot of people in jail. And I was really glad for that, that if people think that doesn't exist except in third world countries, they need to look again, because this was in a neighborhood with kids playing and all sorts of things like that. And I just think that that's the power that media can do, and that's why I'm in journalism, and that's why I want to stay. Thanks.
At the risk of parroting everybody else in broadcast and print, Channel 4 is very committed to making sure we have a diverse workplace. And I think just as women leaders, we naturally mentor and coach. And myself in particular, I've always remembered the people who saw something in me, and when I see a spark in someone else, I want to dig into that a little bit and spend time with young women and people of color who want to move up into more prominent roles. I'm sure you guys are in the same position, but we actually have more women than men as employees at Channel 4. As far as management positions, I think it's about 50-50, but you know, I'm excited to say that the world has changed as far as the broadcast world. When I started in the business, there were no women unless they were anchors. It seemed like the reporters were male, the entire sales staff was male except for myself. producers, editors, people in promotion. It was a male-dominated business, and that's not the case anymore, as evidenced by us sitting here and looking at our staffs and seeing how many women are actually in the business and doing great work in the business.
Well, I'm so proud of the Nashville media companies because I think you all are already meeting the definitions that the commission just recently put out. So that warms my heart very much. So, Geena, let's switch gears. You all, a lot of you all mentioned family members being mentors, and I know we all are so impacted by what our parents tell us at very young ages. One of my friends just wrote a book, and I don't know if I've told you this or not. This is the name of the book. If you all haven't seen it, it's fabulous. It's not the glass ceiling, it's the sticky floor. And it's that sometimes we're our own worst enemies, okay? It's a really, really great book. She's terrific, a great writer. But tell us about either a glass ceiling that you bumped against or a sticky floor or a stumbling block.
Right.
Other than your uncle.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I guess something that was really holding me back in life that I didn't really realize was so stifling was this idea that I couldn't. I had to be. Everybody had to like me. I couldn't be confrontational. I couldn't say what I thought, even because I had to. Everyone liked me, and I was so thrilled if they said, everybody who's worked with you, they love you. Oh, yeah, good, I'm doing it. And there'd be sneaky things I would do, like, I changed this line without them noticing or whatever. But but it wasn't until I did Thumb and Louise and met Susan Sarandon, that experience really helped form me into the person I am. Well, it was, I had thought that I should play Louise at first. Who's the dominant, bossy one, and then they said, no, you're going to play Thelma, and Susan's going to be Louise. Okay, I could have done it, but that's fine. And we meet on the first day. We're going to meet with Ridley and talk about the script. And the second I meet her, I'm like, what was I thinking? How was I going to be Louise when there's Susan? So what happened was, we were supposed to talk about the script and do we have any ideas for changes? And I had made all these notes of like, well, I'll bring that up on the set, or I'll make a joke about this and then he'll realize, and all these kind of girly tricks. So we open up the scripts and Susan says, so in this first scene, I just don't think I should say that. I think we should save that for a later scene and just cut it. And I was like, what? What? And I look at Ridley and he's not going, oh my God, I can't believe it. I mean, I sound so naive, but it wasn't until someone demonstrated it over and over to me.
Again, see it, be it.
Exactly.
Which is what we talk about all the time.
Exactly. I'll just tell you a quick funny thing. Was one day we were getting ready to shoot a scene in the afternoon. We went to lunch and Ridley said, hey, Judy, I'm thinking in the scene this afternoon, you're feeling so great and powerful. What if you just took off your top? And I was like, I have to go to lunch, I think. So I go find Susan in the lunchroom, and I'm like, Susan, oh my God, Ridley wants me to take off my top in the scene. And she was eating. She goes, oh. She strides over to Ridley's table and says, Ridley, Gina's not taking off her top. Comes back and keeps eating, and I'm like, So, anyway,
okay. Beth.
You get the idea.
Yeah.
It's so unfair that I have to follow Geena. I'll be really quick. Early on, there were so many challenges because there just weren't any women there. I would say my biggest fights early on were pay equity. I did threaten to quit and to sue on a couple of occasions, and that was
Still
rectified.
a problem for all women across all sectors.
But I did speak up, and I didn't quite realize at the peril that I was causing myself, but I did it anyway. And I think the second thing I want to say is that even within public television, which is viewed as progressive, I calculated as I was talking to Geena yesterday about the 17% rule. 17% of the public television CEOs around the country are female.
So I don't have a glass ceiling story, and I have often been asked that question. And I think the reason for it is I'm almost overconfident, which is like I don't sit and think about why did that person say that to me, or boy, I'm not being treated fairly, or that just has really never crossed my mind. And case in point, I told you the story about I went in and gave my to quit my job, and they said, well, hold on, we want to come back to you. And I was telling somebody that story recently, and she said, weren't you offended? And I'm like, no, why would I be offended? Well, they should have given you that raise earlier on instead of waiting for you to quit. And I thought, I've never looked at it that way, and I guess you could, but I've always been one who just sees things positively and knowing that, you know what, if I just keep going forward, I'm going to make a change, and it just never occurred to me. So I guess a piece of advice would be positive, think about what change you can create, what you can do, what momentum you have within you, and use that to move things forward.
I would say I'm very similar to Kate on that one. I just kind of put my head forward and move ahead and don't let anything get in my way. In fact, on the way over here, the group of us that were driving in the car, I said, really, I really want to start my statement out with, really, we're talking about this in 2012? Because I work with successful women. I run around with a lot of you in this room as very successful women in the community, so I don't see the inequity. So it was very interesting today to hear the research. One quick story: when I was promoted to general manager, the guy that was running the company at the time, big guy, his name was Dubby, big burly guy, and we were having one of those big corporate meetings where there's like 200-300 people in the room, primarily men, and Dubby calls me to the stage, and you didn't talk back to Dubby Wynn. Ladies and gentlemen, and many of you know Debbie Turner, and I just want to recognize her today. We have given her a promotion as the first female general manager of one of our properties. And without even thinking, I took the mic and I said, thank you, Debbie, I really appreciate that. But what I really want to be remembered as is not the first female general manager of a landmark property, but the best general manager of a landmark property. But I forgot in my head that he had run one of the TV stations. So.
Now, he should have appreciated that. I think that I caught, any time I felt like I wasn't getting ahead where I wanted to go, it usually was me. I had to look inside myself and say, what am I hesitating about? What am I not putting out there? And I think women tend to, we work really hard, we do a good job, but we don't tell people about it. We don't market ourselves.
That's the sticky floor.
Yeah, that's the sticky floor. And so we really do this to ourselves, and very seldom has a man gotten in my way. Usually the men have been very supportive, and they've been mentors, and from my father to my brothers to people I've worked for. So I think the message is we have to do it ourselves. And I'll give you an example. I started having these kids, and I thought I could do everything. I thought I could do everything, and you can't. And at times in your career you can't. And sometimes it's really hard to turn off that drive and then turn it back on, meaning drive for the next job. I was always driven to do a good job of what I was doing, but where was that next job? And also just setting it out there. So for example, I had set it out there that I wanted to be a general manager, and I had put that on my wall, that was my dream. And then I got to be a general manager, and it was sort of like, well, I've arrived. And then after a couple of years, I'm thinking, well, now what do I want to do? I don't want to just stop here. So okay, I want to run a group of TV stations. Well, it happens. But as I'm going through that with children, with parents who are elderly and we have to take care of. I had a sick husband for 3 years. There are times I had to turn that drive down, and that's really hard sometimes. And it's hard then sometimes to recharge it. So I guess what I'm saying is I think it's inside of us. The pay differences, we have to speak up. We have to let people know, that. And I think the things that we're doing here are great. So I think we can accomplish this.
We're
hogging.
This is on now. I would have to echo what these guys say. I don't think there's a glass ceiling. I work for a major company. My CEO is a female. Our chairman of the board is a female. I would say anything that I have not gotten or haven't been promoted to, or disappointments, have probably been self-inflicted, either from fear or some kind of self-imposed limitations. And I really think that we really need to get that message. You can do anything you want to. And yes, temporary suspension of drive has a lot to do with it. Is how much do you want it? And you have to really decide that, because it's all about choices. But pay equity, I have a story to share, a short one, about pay equity. Because I do remember early in my career, I'd moved across from California to Florida. And I had this department head job, and the guy I replaced was horrible. And I could tell that after a couple months. And I found out, because I did my department budget, how much more he made than me. And I'm thinking, I am 10 times better than this guy. I know that. And look how much less I'm making. So I just turned in my variance report. You always turn in a variance report. Every month I turned in the variance report. The top of it was the savings in the salary that we were making because of the savings in my salary. about the 6th month, my boss, the publisher, he says, I get your point, okay? And I says, yeah, but when are you going to do something about it? Because today. And so I did get a raise, and it was just about what he made. And he did make the point that the guy had worked there 20 years, and I'd been there maybe 6 months. But it did help. And so I think you do have to speak up and do it whatever way you know won't backfire on you. But that seemed to work for me that day.
Yeah. It's interesting. You know, what's wrong with these people? They give you these jobs so you have complete control over all the financial information. Do they think we're not going to check and see what our predecessor made? Really? Like everybody else up here. I mean, I really, nothing really got in the way of anything I wanted to do except that one person. 2 years ago, it just made me so miserable. He had no moral character, and I couldn't work with him. But other than that, I mean, anything that I've ever wanted to do, I've been able to do that. As women in business, as Deb pointed out, we do struggle with the balancing act, having children, and especially when you get to be my age, having elderly parents, and you're just stretched so thin. And as I said, I've had a wonderful career and a great life, and all my all my mentors were men, because don't forget, back then there weren't really no women in the business. So I've just been very fortunate.
Thank you. And my last question was going to be about mentors, but I know everybody is really kind of anxious to get back to work and get a raise and ask for a raise, I might add. And so I just can't thank all of you all enough. And I think they really show that maybe there isn't a glass ceiling anymore at all, and that it really is the sticky floor. So I hope especially you young women will think about that. I want to especially thank Linda and the Andrews Institute in Lipscomb for hosting us today. I thought it was unbelievable, and I actually want to challenge Lipscomb, and I guess the Institute, that this panel was so unbelievable. The whole university should be able to hear this and these stories. We'd love to have Geena back too. But I really challenged Lipscomb. The great news is that this panel in its entirety will be on Leading Voices at lipscomb.edu. So if you all want to go back and watch any of this, it will all be there. And especially Geena's fabulous, humorous, but very thought-provoking, fierce, and ardent advocacy for all of us. So thank you all so much, and I think Linda Shack just wants to close us out. And just again, thanks for making this dream come true.
For letting us celebrate and for educating us on the things we need to know. Thank you, panel, and we'll see you back here for a group of students and the community, we hope. One last comment on pay equity, and that is sometimes you just have to make sure the media is shining the light on it. I had a job early in my life where I was the first woman press secretary for a president. The New York Times decided to do a story on what women were making in campaigns. I went in to tell my boss that, and he said, "Linda, you just got a raise." So, making sure that the press is following this is very important as well. Thank you so much for coming. The other thing that person taught me was afternoon movies. Women don't like to take breaks, right? Well, this afternoon, if you want to continue your day, you can take a break and see A League of Their Own. Gina's going to introduce it to 150 local girls who will be on our baseball field first to take a photo with her. And then at 2 o'clock at Shamlin Theater, if you would like to come watch A League of Their Own, please join us. Thank you so much for coming.